alert line, and we have had reports in many areas along the line of winds gusting to 50 to 70 miles an hour. The highest wind gust I've seen so far today, 77 miles per hour. That was at Pryor Field up in Decatur and Morgan County. But again, within this line segment, we could easily see many spots getting winds of 60, maybe 70 mile per hour gusts for a brief time. And needless to say, this has knocked down hundreds, if not thousands of trees across the state. We have many power outages as well. And this will be sweeping through the Birmingham Metro here within the hour. So what you want to do if you live in an area where there are many trees, understand they could go down. And you might consider these severe thunderstorm warnings like a tornado warning. You might want to consider going to a small room in the interior part of the house, being away from windows on the lowest floor. There's no tornado circulation here. We don't expect any real tornado problem. There could be an isolated tornado, but the main concern, these strong winds within the line of storms. And away from the line, we have gradient winds gusting to 40, 45, 50 miles an hour. So understand it's going to be a pretty rough ride here. These are current wind gusts. And you can see the winds are gusting in Cullman now to 55, the winds gusting in Birmingham to 39, and about the same for Anniston and Gadsden. And again, up in parts of the Tennessee Valley, winds have been higher. And these are gradient winds, not winds related to storms. So Taylor, let's go to some of the sky cams if we can. We want to actually take a look at this, and I've got thousands of images of downed trees. This is coming from Birmingham Coca-Cola. This is overlooking Birmingham Shuttlesworth International Airport. This is downtown Birmingham. Let's go to the camera, if we can, on top of the power company headquarters here in downtown Birmingham. We'll look back off to the west. And again, the advice here, I would not want to be driving during this passage of the line. And the good news, the line will be sweeping through in about 10 to 15 minutes, and that's it. That's all it's going to take. 10, 15 minutes, extremely high wind, extremely heavy rain, and it's gone. But I would not want to be driving during this, and a tree could go down. A high-profile vehicle could flip over in winds like this. So driving is not recommended. And again, if you're in a home or a business, the best thing to do is to be in the middle, the interior part of the house, away from windows, much like a tornado warning. And again, this is looking back off to the west. Let's look at the Jasper camera. The storms have come on through Jasper, and again, we've got a lot of power outages. The last I saw, and again, notice the sun is out here. I mean, the line will come through and the sun breaks out. That's how fast this will be. I have seen reports, Taylor, of how many outages. Last I saw was 35,000 across the state. This is a look at some of the outages coming from our system here. And again, you can see the higher numbers are across Winston, Marion, Fayette, and Walker counties. And again, we're just putting some numbers down for these counties. These are approximate numbers. And 9,000 in Winston County, 8,000 in Walker County, 6,000 Marion, 5,000 for Fayette. So I would imagine statewide we probably have 50,000 outages at this point, 50,000 customers with no power. And those numbers will add up as the storms have yet to come through the Birmingham Metro. And again, the concern here, it's straight line wind, okay? But there could be an isolated tornado. There's a tornado watch in effect now for the Birmingham Metro, Tuscaloosa, and points north and east. All right, that's in effect for the next several hours. Of course, once the line passes, your risk of severe weather is over. But again, the main concern, it's not tornadoes, it's all of this wind. And again, we have a high wind warning in effect for the Tennessee Valley of North Alabama, a wind advisory for the rest of the state. That's for the gradient winds ahead of that line. And again, it's been a really rough ride this morning, just looking at some of the different images. But one more time, let's look at the radar before we show some of the images. So again, the line is past Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa, your risk of severe weather is over. Jasper, it's over. Smith Lake, the risk is over. In fact, the sun is shining back here. I mean, the storms come. Heavy wind and rain, sun breaks out, and it's all over. So let's take a closer look at the Birmingham Metro. And again, this line of storms will be coming right into the core of the city here in the next 10 minutes or so. And this is racing. The storms are moving at a very rapid clip. You can see they're lined up now from near Kimberly, Morris, and Warrior down toward Adamsville and Graysville, then back down toward Oak Grove in the western part of the county. So again, it's just, here we are at the noon hour, and this is lunch hour for a lot of folks that work the day shift. And I would not advise taking a walk if you're working in downtown Birmingham to get lunch. I would prefer to stay in the office while this is in place. And again, I just don't advise driving. It's not the best idea. Again, because a tree might come down while you're driving, or a high-profile vehicle might flip. We've had some 18-wheelers flip with this line of storms this morning. And again, as it comes through this densely populated area, that could be a big problem. And needless to say, we have severe thunderstorm warnings that blanket all of the Birmingham Metro, all of Jefferson, all of Blount. In fact, for the whole line, you're going to have warnings today. These will be moving into Anniston, Gadsden in about 1 hour or so. But again, the good news, that's it. Once this line passes, you're done with severe weather. The sun breaks out immediately, and everything improves very quickly. Let's go back to the Skycam network, and again, let's take a look at Children's of Alabama, maybe, Taylor. This will be one that looking back off to the west, and we want to see that's Regents Field. And if we can move it back off to the west, take a look at the western horizon here. Again, you'll be able to see the shelf cloud in association with that, and we'll kind of hold it here. That's Interstate 65 right down and through here. And shortly, that camera is really going to start to shake and bake up on top of Children's downtown, and we'll see what it looks like as it comes through the city. If we can, I want to go to WEX 05 and show some of the images of what has been happening over the western half of the state this morning. This is a look at the line of storms coming through Smith Lake, the southern part of Smith Lake. This is closer to Jasper, near the Smith Lake Dam. And again, we have had many reports, and our sky watchers are doing a great job this morning of giving us current wind information. Winds have been gusting to 50, 55, 60 miles per hour in many spots. And again, we've had a gust up to 77 up in Decatur and Morgan County with these line of storms. This is a look at the line coming through, I want to say, this is Hamilton earlier this morning. And that was where the storms initially came into the state about 9:45 or 10 o'clock. And again, that's a very common sight. If you're in the western side of the state, you've dealt with that this morning. And this is the result of these storms. I mean, I'm telling you, we have hundreds of trees down, if not thousands, across the western part of the state. This is just one example. The good news, I can tell you, we have had no reports of anybody injured. And a lot of this damage you see with the tree damage, this is gradient wind, not related to the thunderstorms. That is downtown Fayette, and you can see a large tree that came down right in the middle of that, blocking the road. This is also a large tree down in Fayette. A lot of reports of tree damage in Lamar, Marion, Fayette, Winston, and Walker counties, but that is a very, very common sight across the western part of the state, and some structural damage as well. But again, the good news, I can tell you so far, no injuries. And of course, these things are just all over the place today. So let's go back to the radar. And again, if you're just joining us here, we're going to stay with the weather coverage for a little bit. We do not have any tornado warnings. And typically when you see James and Taylor, it's a tornado warning. This is not a tornado warning, but this is a high-end severe thunderstorm wind event. And this line of storms that is stretching from east of Huntsville to west of Birmingham to east of Tuscaloosa, producing widespread wind gusts of over 50 miles an hour. And many trees and lines are coming down. And again, for those in advance of the line, the advice is to just kind of stay put. And I would almost treat this as if it is a tornado warning, and that you want to be near the center of a structure and away from windows and on the lowest floor. And if you live in a trailer, quite frankly, I would not want to be in a mobile home with this line passing through because of the potential for trees coming down, or maybe a trailer flipping, something like that. And a lot of shelters are open because of that possibility, but it's just something to think about. And that's the reason we talked about this last night. We really want people to pay close attention to severe thunderstorm warnings today, because we'll have more of those than we'll have tornado warnings. So again, let's take a closer look at the Birmingham Metro. And again, these things are about to come right into downtown. And again, it's pouring rain, but the rain is not the big deal. It's the wind. And the wind is mainly on the leading edge and within that core you see here. Again, from Kimberly, Morris, Warrior, down through Mount Olive, Graysville, Adamsville, back down to Concord. And they'll be coming through Hueytown, Pleasant Grove, Fultondale, Forestdale, the Birmingham Metro, and just sweep right through the metro here. And again, it's going to be a rough ride, but it will not last long. That's the good thing about this. So, Taylor, let's go back to the Skycam. What you got? I bet you it's...
We are starting to see things pick up from our Children's of Alabama camera. You can see the leading edge of some of that rain. That's why it looks a little hazy in the distance. It's actually the heavy rain falling. And as we've seen with some of our different sky cams over the last hour or so, we'll see the winds pick up. We're going to see that rain, and then you're not going to see much of anything just because it's raining so heavily, and that rain is being wind blown by 50 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts. That's why we've got those severe thunderstorm warnings in place. So certainly conditions are about to deteriorate across downtown Birmingham, the Birmingham Metro, as this line moves through. As we've been saying, it's not going to last long. It's going to be about 15, maybe 20 minutes of really strong winds and some heavy rain. And then once that line moves through your location, you are done with the severe threat. But as we've seen, this line has a history of producing damage. We've had trees down, we've had power lines down. So we do want you to take this line seriously, take these severe thunderstorm warnings seriously. Stay inside, stay away from those windows, just to be sure that you are safe as these strong winds move through. I am going to switch us here maybe to a different camera. We'll look at the Coca-Cola camera. We've turned this back towards downtown Birmingham, and it's starting to rain now, but the worst of the weather has not quite made it into downtown Birmingham. We will switch cameras here. Let's get a view from our Alabama Power camera. And you can see it appears dark as that rain starts to move closer to downtown Birmingham now. I'm going to switch us back to Children's of Alabama, and we'll watch this line of storms roll through here within the next few minutes. It'll be here pretty quickly. We're starting to see those clouds darken up a bit. We got a lot of folks out on the roads, and as this line moves through, it's going to be just really hard to see on the roads because of all the heavy rain being blown by the wind. And as James has been mentioning, we've seen some issues with high-profile vehicles. Back in Tupelo, we had reports of 18-wheelers that were turned over from some of those strong damaging winds. So if you can avoid getting out and on the roads as this line moves through, that's going to be your best bet. It's not going to be a really long-lasting thunderstorm, but it is a potent thunderstorm. So if you can just maybe hold off on your plans for an extra 30 minutes as that line moves through, that will be your best bet. We have seen that line already move through Tuscaloosa. We were watching that on our Tuscaloosa Skycam. We do have an Algo camera to show us on 459. What do we got going on with? Okay, we're looking back towards McCalla. If we can pull up that camera view here, it looks like we've got some rain moving through. That line quite hasn't made it there yet, but it's just knocking on the doorstep. We will see those winds pick up within that line. I mean, I say the winds are going to pick up. They're already fairly strong. We've got those pressure gradient winds that have been gusting up to 50 miles per hour throughout the morning across central Alabama, and that's also been responsible for some of the trees down across parts of our state even before that main line of thunderstorms moves through. So we are going to continue to track this line. It's a quick moving system. This should all be over and done with by about 2 p.m. and then we're left with quiet conditions through the rest of the day and also into the weekend. Weekend forecast looks just perfect. We've got 60s and 70s with sunshine. But of course, in the immediate future, we are tracking this strong line of thunderstorms. Here is the overall motion of that line. It's moving towards the east at about 45, 50 miles per hour, so sweeping across the state. And along that line, we've seen severe thunderstorm warnings basically just blanket that entire leading edge. So we've got severe thunderstorm warnings that cover from Coleman through Blount County to Jefferson County to Bibb County. And this line of storms is moving quickly, but we keep saying it's very potent. So that's why we are on the air doing this long form coverage for you, is just because we want you to be prepared. And we want you to take these severe thunderstorm warnings seriously. Although we're not talking about at this moment any tornado warnings, these storms have a history of producing damage, and there's no reason for us to believe that they won't continue to do so as they spread across central Alabama over the next few hours.
Yeah, I want to say we've got Bill Castle and Stephen Quinn, who's out in the field, and if you guys in the back can let me know if we can talk with them and see their live image. They're on the way to a report of some people trapped inside a house by downed power lines, which is a problem. So again, if you guys let me know when I can talk with Stephen, we want to talk with him. Also, we've got Evan Shakbear in the field. Okay, Stephen, I'm going to step out of the way. Tell us exactly where you are and what the report is that you've got there.
Yeah, what I can tell you right now is we're getting lots of reports already, James, of power lines and trees that are down in the Bessemer and, more importantly, the greater Birmingham Metro area. And this is before these storms have even arrived, which shows those gradient winds that you had been telling people about are certainly already packing a punch and causing some issues. At last check, I've already seen more than 50,000 reported power outages statewide, and that's a number that's certainly expected to get even larger as this storm moves into this higher population center. But again, we had received a report about power lines that are causing issues for people right now down in the Smithfield area. Beyond that, without having seen it, I don't want to speculate beyond that, but certainly what I can tell you with confidence, James, is that these winds are already causing power lines and trees down in the Birmingham Metro before these storms have even arrived.
Okay, Stephen, thank you. Let's go back to the radar, and again, we're going to check back with him in just a second. The radar will show this band of severe storms coming into the Birmingham Metro, and this thing has knocked down hundreds, if not thousands, of trees. And again, just before we show anything else here, the advice I would not want to be driving is these pass. And again, this will not last long. I'm telling you, 15 minutes and the sun is out. It's over. That's how quick this will be. But I would not want to be driving. And in a home, I would almost take your tornado precautions. I would want to be in a smaller room, lowest floor, near the center of the house, away from windows. And that's the kind of wind we're dealing with, and based on the widespread damage that we have seen so far back to the north and west, mainly from trees falling on homes. It's been a really rough ride here, and again, this will sweep on through the Birmingham Metro and the eastern half of the state in the next hour or so, and all of this will be in Georgia by about 3 o'clock or so this afternoon. So let's go back to the Skycam network, and again, I want to take a look at this as it comes in. Again, this is coming from Children's of Alabama. And again, you can see Interstate 65 right here, and conditions will deteriorate very rapidly. Let's go to the Alabama Power Company headquarters camera, which is also in downtown Birmingham. This will be looking back to the west-northwest. And let's move it a little bit, maybe up and over here to the north. That's Interstate 65.
Having trouble moving this one.
Okay.
I think we're stuck.
Okay, and sometimes that happens. We lose control of the cameras. But again, this is looking to the west. That's I-65. So again, let's go back to Children's of Alabama, and again, we'll look back to the west. This is from Birmingham Coca-Cola, by the way, looking back toward downtown. This is coming from their facility that overlooks Birmingham Shuttlesworth International Airport. But I tell you what here, I want to just really quickly go back and let's go back to WEX 05 really quick. And again, I want to show you, look at this. I mean, this is what it's going to look like coming through downtown Birmingham. It's looked like this all over north and west Alabama. It's just brutal. Again, winds within this line are gusting to 50, 60, and in some spots 70 miles an hour. Decatur, Pryor Field, had a wind gust of 77 miles per hour with this particular line of storms. And this is just very common. I mean, I have, and this is no exaggeration, hundreds of images of trees down. All across the state, really, not only with the convective line, the line of storms, but away from that line with gradient winds. And in many cases, these are not small trees. And again, you can see some structural damage. But if you're driving, you're going to come across this, especially if you're out in the country where it's going to take a while for people to clear these roads. We've got, and look at this. I mean, goodness gracious. This is why you don't want to drive, okay? I can't make it any more clear than that. You just don't want to be in a car when this line comes through, because obviously if somebody was in that, you would have no way of surviving that. Now, to my knowledge, nobody was in that vehicle that you're seeing there, but that's an example of what's going on all across the state this afternoon. And again, there's another vehicle with a big tree on it. So this is a big, widespread problem. You know, with the tornado, it's over a fairly small area. This is over the entire northern half of the state. So let's go back to the radar. And again, first off, there's our Skycam. And again, we'll watch conditions deteriorate. But let's go back to the radar. And again, this is the line of storms now from east of Coleman around Holly Pond, right down through the western part of Blount County, toward Hayden, and then down toward Warrior, Gardendale, Mount Olive, Hueytown, Concord, then down into extreme eastern Tuscaloosa County. Most of the wind damage reports I've seen have been basically from Tuscaloosa north. We've had trees down in Tuscaloosa, Northport. As you get farther to the south, the air is more stable, and we've not heard of any major damage there. The big concern, it's basically from Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Calera, Sylacauga North, that part of the state. But again, that line is going to be coming right through the core of downtown Birmingham here very shortly. So, Taylor, what you got on the Skycam? I bet it's going to get rough there in a few minutes.
It's getting closer. You can definitely tell that the sky has gotten darker. We're watching that line get closer. We're seeing the cameras shake a bit more, and we are going to keep watching as this line of storms moves closer. Basically, what's going to happen here is we'll see the rain. we're going to see really strong wind, and then basically this camera view is just going to turn white because it's going to be windy and the wind is going to be blowing those raindrops against the camera lens. It's going to be hard to see anything. That's going to last for about 10-15 minutes. And then we'll actually likely to start to see the sun break out once those storms move through. We're getting reports of folks writing in saying, hey, the sun's out now. Those storms move through. So this is a quick moving line of storms. It's a very thin band of thunderstorms, but it's potent. It's brought down quite a lot of trees and power lines across central Alabama so far. And we're going to keep watching this camera lens here as those storms inch closer and closer to downtown Birmingham. Got a lot of folks out on the road. You can see I-65 there, and there is quite a bit of traffic at this point, people driving, and that is not what we recommend at this point. As we've kind of said to you a couple different times, we had reports of actually 18-wheelers that were turned over by the strong winds back in Tupelo in Mississippi, and not out of the question that we could see that kind of thing happen here as these strong storms move through with wind gusts 50, 60, over 60 miles per hour within that leading edge of storms arriving in downtown Birmingham here pretty soon. So I'm going to turn the camera just a little bit and we can kind of get a feel for what it looks like. And you see how the sky is just getting darker and darker. That's because the sun is reflecting through those raindrops, and of course that makes the sky look dark, but it shows you that heavier rain, it's getting closer, it's moving towards your location. So in downtown Birmingham, those conditions will be deteriorating here fairly quickly, fairly soon, lasting for about 20 minutes or so, and then we'll be done with that severe threat. Once that line pushes through your location, you are done with today's severe threat. This isn't one of those days where we've got multiple rounds. It's just one and done. I've switched the camera view here now from our Coca-Cola camera. We're looking back towards downtown Birmingham. Kind of a hazy appearance to the sky thanks to some of the rain that's already falling. You can actually see the sun's out a little bit. This is ahead of the line though. Those stronger storms are moving quickly in the direction of downtown Birmingham. Here's the view from our Alabama Power camera, and you can tell it's definitely windy. That camera is shaking. Of course, this is at a higher elevation on top of a building, but even down on the ground, we've had those wind gusts 50 miles per hour. That's why we've got a wind advisory, and that's going to last through about 9 p.m. So I'm going to switch this here back.
Let's go to WEXO 5 real quick. I'll just show you some more images. And again, this is some of the damage coming in from various parts of the state with all of these trees down. And this is widespread. This is not, a one or two down tree kind of day. Hundreds of trees are blown down across the state. Many roads are blocked because of down trees. If you're you see a tree obviously came through that window or a large branch of this home, but there's been some structural damage as well. But again, obviously, if you'll be driving this afternoon, even if the sun is out and the line is passed, be aware that a tree could be blocking a road, especially in rural areas, and be very, very careful. So again, let's go back to the Skycam situation here. It's now 12:12. And we've got the line of severe storms that will produce winds gusting to 50, 60, maybe 70 miles an hour in spots coming into the Birmingham Metro. That's the shelf cloud in advance of the line. Again, that's Interstate 65 down below. This is the Skycam coming from atop Children's of Alabama. And again, we're going to watch conditions rapidly deteriorate here. We've got the conditions now in the western part of the Birmingham Metro. And again, it's going to come right through the city center in the next 15 minutes or so, and that will be sweeping into East Alabama. So again, if you're in Anniston or Gadsden, understand you're going to have the same situation there in that part of the state in about 1 hour or so. But the good news, all of this should be in Georgia by 3 o'clock, and the sun breaks out really quickly once this thing passes. Let's peek at the radar one more time. And again, I want to show kind of a wider view so people can see. That's a great shot there. You can see the line of storms now extending from near Lake Gunnersville right down through the western part of Blount County. From Blountsville down to Locust Fork, down to Hayden, and then through northern and western Jefferson County, just north and west of Birmingham. That would include places like Pinson, Gardendale, Concord, Hueytown, and then down into eastern Tuscaloosa County. We do note there's a tornado warning up here near the Tennessee state line. This would be in effect for the northern part of Jackson County, but that will not affect us. That's up in the Huntsville television market. We have severe thunderstorm warnings in effect now for all of Etowah, all of St. Clair, and most of Shelby counties, as the line will be sweeping into these areas soon. And again, for the entire line, the Weather Service will be posting severe thunderstorm warnings. That's a given. We're going to see winds easily exceeding 58 miles per hour here. And again, if you're in Anniston or Weiss Lake or in Cleburne County, you'll have to deal with this a little later. So again, the latest warning, severe thunderstorm warnings in effect now for Etowah, St. Clair, much of Shelby County, and of course already warnings in effect right within that line for parts of Marshall, Blount, Jefferson, eastern Tuscaloosa, and Bibb County. So let's take a closer look at the Birmingham Metro. There's a good shot with our Skycam, and this will be coming right into the city. Let's go back to the Coca-Cola camera, and again, this is kind of a broad view looking back into it from their facility that's overlooked Shuttlesworth International Airport. And again, this is the skyline of downtown Birmingham here. And again, you're going to see the skyline just basically vanish once the heavy rain begins to move in. So let's go back to Children's of Alabama. This is our Skycam on top of the Children's of Alabama Hospital downtown. And again, this is overlooking Interstate 65, looking back to the north and west, and that's going to change pretty rapidly here in the next few minutes. The winds have gusted in many spots, and again, gradient winds out ahead of the line. Not within the line, but just pressure gradient winds. Those have gusted to 50 miles an hour, and that's produced tree and power line damage. And again, the great concern is the number of power outages that we will ultimately have from this. In fact, I'm going to peek at our power map here, and maybe you can pull that up. Yeah, I've got 93,658 now. 93,658 customers without power in the state. The largest number of outages I'm seeing right now are coming from Fayette County, but there's a lot of outages in Lamar, Marion, Winston, and Franklin counties, and we're seeing numbers increasing rapidly in Cullman and Walker County as well. So again, almost 100,000 with no power in the state because of this, and the numbers continue to ramp up here, and it's only going to deteriorate. And it has not even come through the Birmingham Metro. And there's a very real possibility we could wind up with 200,000, a 250,000 with no power here before this whole thing is over. Let's go back to Stephen Quinn. Stephen, what you got for us? Wow. I see Bill Castle.
Hey guys, I'm right now in downtown Birmingham. Look at this scene. Yeah, you see Bill Castle here. We're getting images, and you see this poor lineman right now really just stuck. This is the scene where we had gotten that report of power lines that had been down, and you see part of the roof that appears to have been knocked out that caused this power line to come down. That was from those gradient winds ahead of the storm. You see there's debris right now out on the road, and now this is starting to get blown around. As you see, this front is just now starting to make its way. And James, this is something you would expect to see during a tropical storm or something of that nature. That's how strong these winds are. And this poor lineman right now with Alabama Power, he's been out here trying to fix this. And right now he's quite literally battening down the hatch as we get ready for this line to make its way through. It is getting pretty strong out here, James.
All right, Stephen, thank you. And again, you and Bill, be careful. They're two veterans. They've both been trained in spotting. They know how to stay safe. But that's a situation where conditions will continue to worsen over the next 5 minutes. But again, the good news about this thing, it's only going to take 10 to 15 minutes for this line of storms to pass, and then the sun breaks out and we're done with it.
Yeah.
So again, let's go back to the Skycam, Taylor, and it's getting pretty rough.
It is definitely starting to, the conditions are definitely starting to deteriorate across the Birmingham Metro. The camera's shaking. We can certainly see that the heavy rain is moving in now. If we can take that Skycam full, you are able just to see those conditions. And this is what it's going to be like all along the line. This is what you are going to be dealing with. 50 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts in some instances, generally looking at 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, but camera shaking, the rain is moving in. It's now crossing over I-65. That was I-65 in the distance, and it's getting hard to see I-65 at this point. And as that rain shield moves closer to the camera lens, I suspect we won't be able to see much of anything here in the next few minutes. But for now, giving you a really good idea of just how windy it is within these lines. And this is the reason we do want you to take these warnings seriously. Stay indoors, stay away from those windows if you can. Of course, we've been talking about all of these trees that have come down with this line of storms. And that's why we are on the air right now doing this extended coverage for you, is just because of the sheer number of tree reports and power line reports we've had down across central Alabama. And we're not talking tornadoes, we're talking severe thunderstorm warnings. We tell you to take those seriously, and today is certainly one of those days where we want you to follow that rule. You can see slowly that rain getting closer and closer to the camera, more of the skyline there disappearing into the heavy rain. We are going to stay with this camera for a little while as that wind picks up. getting hard now to see Regions Field as that rain is getting even closer.
Yeah, point that thing down, Taylor. We're gonna just go all gray here in just a minute. Let's kind of get it down towards street level. And again, that's right below Children's. And again, we'll just kind of watch that disappear together. So again, the core of the line is coming through downtown Birmingham right now. Again, our encouragement is not to drive in this situation, and also just to kind of stay in a place away from windows. You don't want to be looking right out the window at this. You can watch it right here on your phone, on television. You can see it live, and I've got piles of images I'll be showing here shortly, but again, now it's basically all going away, and soon it's just going to be gray. But what's amazing, in about 15 minutes, we'll come back to that shot, and it will be blue sky. That's how quickly this will pass. So again, let's go to the airport shot from Birmingham Coca-Cola, and we'll look back on it coming from a distance. And again, I would imagine that you cannot see the skyline from our camera at Birmingham Coca-Cola because of the tremendous rain in downtown Birmingham and all of the wind. And there's been some structural damage, but the encouraging thing I can tell you, I've heard of no reports of any damage, or I'm sorry, any injuries today. Damage, absolutely. Trees down all over the place. Some structural damage, but again, I've not heard of any specific injuries as a result of this, and I think people have been taking the warnings seriously today, the severe thunderstorm warnings, which was the advice we were giving last night. Again, let's go to the radar really quickly, and again, we're going to pop that in and just show you that we've got the line coming right through the core of downtown Birmingham. It extends up to Aniana, Albertville, about to come into Boaz. It'll be coming into Gadsden soon, be coming into St. Clair County soon. But again, within the line, you could see winds gusting to in excess of 50 miles an hour. That could easily bring down trees and power lines. It has happened all over the western half of the state, and it's going to happen across the Birmingham Metro, and again, it's going to happen over into East Alabama as well. Let's go to Stephen's camera real quick. Let's just take that. This is Stephen Quinn and Bill Castle, who is, they're currently in the midst of this, and again, you can see that at the moment they seem to be in good shape, which is good. So let's go back to the radar, and we've got severe thunderstorm warnings blanketing the entire line. All right, and it's coming right through the core of Birmingham. But if you're in some of these eastern suburbs, Trussville, Liberty Park, Hoover, Vestavia, Pelham, Alabaster, Chelsea, just be aware that you're going to be dealing with the winds. This is a look at Interstate 459 in Hoover, one of the ALDOT cameras. And again, you know, folks do have to go. I'm not, you know, going to call anybody out because folks just have to do what they have to do. But again, if you have the option of not driving, I would not want to be driving in this situation today. Let's go back to WEX 05 real quick, and again, I'll show you more of what the images have looked like across the state. Again, these images were captured in areas north and west of Birmingham. I don't know this specific location, but that's what it looks like when the line comes through, and it literally looks like you're in a tropical storm or a hurricane, and I have been in many of those, and that's pretty much what it looks like. But thankfully, it doesn't last for hours and hours like a tropical storm or a hurricane. It lasts for about 15 minutes, and it's over. But again, this is more of the type damage that we're seeing all across the northern and western part of the state, and it's going to take a while to clean this mess up. Again, we've just got so many trees and power lines that have been blown down. Let's take a look at some more of the images here, and again, a lot of trees down on vehicles today, which is the last thing that you want to see. And again, that looks like that's in Birmingham, the western part of Birmingham. So let's go back to the Skycam if we can do that, Taylor. What's it looking like?
I've got the Skycam now. This is our Galleria Tower camera in Hoover. I will put that on the screen here if we want to take that full. We are looking at that line of storms now, about to cross over 459. You can see kind of a similar view to what we were tracking when we were watching that Birmingham Skycam. The sky is going to get dark. Then we're going to see those winds really pick up.